Hey there, all you groovy cats and kittens. Just wanted to turn you on to a great movie I just saw, which uh, is a very forgotten science fiction comedy musical, uh, which was forgotten for a reason, and I'll explain that. It was directed by Val Guest, who some of you might know from the Quatermass Experiment and also Quatermass 2, both of which he directed. He also wrote this film. It was produced by names you'll recognize instantly. Don Kirshner, yes, the music producer Don Kirshner, who created the Monkees, and Harry Saltzman, the guy who produced the James Bond films, at least the Sean Connery James Bond series. Um, it stars a very young and very beautiful Olivia Newton-John, who was only 21 at the time this movie was made. That's 8 years before Grease, so she wasn't famous yet. Benny Thomas, Vic Cooper, um, a guy named Carl Chambers, uh, Franklin, Franklin, Shakira Kane, um, Roy Marsden, who some of you will recognize because he again was a staple in Howard Hammer Films. Roy Dotrice, who again you'll recognize if you're a fan of British movies. He was in a lot of things. Um, One named Maria O'Brien, Tracy Crisp as kind of a sexy music teacher, um, Carl Rigg as Olivia's boyfriend, Matt. Was only seen in a couple of scenes, which is odd considering he was supposed to be her boyfriend. And Benny Thomas. Really, really an interesting, weird, funny, great movie. It was only released last year, this year, 2026, because when producing and when directing and working on the movie, Val Guest worked for 6 months without pay beyond his contract. And when he went to get the money from Harry Saltzman, he said, "I don't have the money," and his music company didn't have the money either. None of the crew had been paid either. So he went. He filed a lawsuit. He filed an injunction. The movie was only shown for 1 week, and then he slapped this lawsuit on and said, "You're not showing this anymore until you pay everybody." Well, as of 1994, he still hadn't paid anybody, and it's become gone into public domain now because Val Guest has sadly passed away. But that's the reason that nobody's heard of this movie. Again, it's Toomorrow, spelled Toomorrow, and that's the name of the fictional band in this movie, which is led by Olivia Newton-John and features Benny Thomas and Vic Cooper and Carl Chambers. Um, they have invented a device called the tonalizer, and it's a sort of a special amplifier. And these aliens called the Alphoids, who are represented by Roy Dotrice, who is playing a character named John Williams. That's kind of funny. Obviously, that's a reference to John Williams, the music composer. And their music creates a vibration which invigorates these Alphoids, who are very strange looking. They have blue skin, and they have almost no expression, and they're bald. And they live on a spaceship that looks like a giant diamond, like a psychedelic diamond, that's flashing in all kinds of blues and reds and oranges and weird psychedelic colors. The set decoration of this thing is just fantastic, and the set dressing. It looks very much like a typical 1960s style, hippie kind of weird, lots of bright colors and Eames chairs and kind of cool looking furniture, and really quite interesting. Anyway, he discovers that the music produced by Toomorrow, produces this vibration which can help them. They've become sterile, basically. They don't have emotions anymore, but they still have needs, and they still reproduce, and they have been able to do it because their music is electronic, and it's very sort of odd sounding. It doesn't have any emotion, and it doesn't have any heart, as John Williams' character says. So they decide they want to abduct this group and listen to their music. Williams goes back to Earth through this. They have like a beam that's sort of like the Star Trek transporter beam. All the effects is obviously just scratched film. The special effects in this whole thing look like a bad episode of the Tom Baker era Doctor Who, which is appropriate because this was filmed in 1970 and Tom Baker's era was the early 70s. And so they live in this weird spaceship, which is, like I said, is diamond shaped, and they decide that the Galactic Central, quote unquote, which is their leading council, wants their Galactic Council, I should say, wants them to take these people back to their planet. And they never name their planet, but say that they want them to go back so they can create these vibrations through the tonalizer and revitalize them, basically. They kidnap the group through the auspices of John Williams, invites them back to his country house in Hampstead Heath, and he has a very sophisticated music, a 4-track tape recorder, and this is kind of cool. He has this power that he can look at magazines and actually pull something out of the magazine and create it in real life, and that's what he does with this tape recorder. He just looks at an ad for it in the magazine, and then he materializes it. They can do this through, they explain, a kind of energy that humans don't have access to. He also, he creates a whole bunch of records that he's just looking at, like an RCA record ad, and he just materializes them on his shelf, so they think he's, very hip. He listens to all the latest sounds. There's a lot of funny things that are going on. Anyway, they record this song for him on the 4-track recorder, and then he transports them up to the Alphoid spaceship against their will. They're talking to some of the other Alphoids. They see him in his true form. He takes off his face, basically, is just a mask. And now he looks like the other Alphoids, who are kind of android sort of looking. And they tell him what they want. And they say, well, we gotta perform at a pop festival this afternoon, man. We can't do this. And he's saying, time won't pass while you're here. And he's trying to explain things. He's trying to actually force them, basically, to do what they want. And they end up finally, Roy Dotrice convinces the other Alphoids, let's just wait. They can't, Olivia Newton-John says, we can't perform without our audience. We can't create this music without the situation. And the situation is we like to play in front of people. And so Roy Dotrice convinces the others, Alphoids, hey, let's let them have the pop festival, which is what they're gonna do, and we'll transport the whole pop festival up to Galactic Central. And they agree, and they let him go back down to Earth. And there's a bunch of funny comedy bits. They aren't certain that one of the members, Vic, played by Vic Cooper, who's called Vic Cooper in the movie, which I thought was interesting. All the people are called their real names. Benny Thomas played Benny, Vic Cooper plays Vic, Carl Chambers plays Carl, Olivia Newton-John plays Olivia. So they're all called by their real names. He's having problems with his girlfriend Amy, who is played by Imogen Hassel, and he didn't forget her birthday. He just didn't do anything special for her birthday. He didn't get her flowers or anything. So she kind of breaks up with him, and he's upset, and now he doesn't want to play. And Olivia has to fix this because she knows they have to play at the pop festival. Also, Roy Dotrice notices this, and he creates this woman named Johnson, who's played by Margaret Nolan. He says, I need a woman who has, is well proportioned and has, quote unquote, long blonde fur. That's funny. He didn't say hair, he said fur. And she shows up, and first she has a male voice. She says, you're supposed to speak like a human female. She changes it, and she sounds like a British girl. And she's naked, so he does that magazine trick. He sees a green dress, and he materializes it for her. And she says, I want you to have a special assignment. I want you to go and find and entice, and if necessary, seduce this guy Vic Cooper, so he'll play with the band, because he's the one who invented the tonalizer. If he's not playing, the tonalizer isn't there. So she says, I don't understand, what is seduce? And he takes her to a couple of porno movies to show her what seduce means, which 60s versions of porno movies are pretty tame by today's standards. But I think that was kind of cool. And again, they're going through quote unquote swinging London, which, as Michael Moorcock described, there really was no swinging London. There were 4 shops. There was a shop called Chelsea Mail, and a couple of, it says MALE, and a couple of other shops in the high street, but there really wasn't this. If you think there was really a swinging London like you saw in Austin Powers, that's a complete invention. This movie shows what London was really like. There's they all go to art college, which again was pretty common at the time, and all the Sex Pistols went to art college. and all of the members of Hawkwind and T-Rex and all the popular bands, Pink Floyd, they all went to art college. So that's kind of a common thing. And they had like these student protests that were really basically about nothing. And that was, they wanted to be in administration, and then when they let them in, they closed down the campus. It looked kind of funny. But they're making fun of that whole thing. Johnson says something funny. Yeah, I have not been instructed in seduce. That was funny. Amy tells, oh no, it's not Amy. It's this character by Maria O'Brien of Francoise, who they call Fran, says to Olivia after she's talking about trying to get Vic and Amy back together. Says, "All men are stinkers. Some just stink more than others." That's a great line. They use a lot of the pop terms of the time. The movie's a little bit sexist because, again, that's just sort of the way things were at the time. Girls in mini skirts and being referred to as chicks, and things of that sort. And they're all saying like groovy and far out and things of that sort. It doesn't really detract any from the fun of the movie. It's really quite fun. There's some really quite good songs, which is not surprising since, again, it was produced by Don Kirshner. I noticed that one of the songs, called Happiness Valley, sounds a lot like Happy Valley Sunday, Pleasant Valley Sunday from the Monkees. And that's not, unusual since, again, Don Kirshner created the Monkees. He didn't write the songs, but he did, create the group. The songs were done mostly by the Lovin' Spoonful, until they started writing their own later on. What else? Suzanne is played by Tracy Cripps, with this sexy music instructor. Vic is also sleeping. He's like sleeping with everybody. And then he's sleeping with her. He's sleeping with this girl, Fran, who becomes angry when she sees Johnson in his apartment, is trying to seduce him, and starts like throwing plates at him and everything. The pop festival is fantastic. They have like these weird hippie dancing, and again, Roy Dotrice is wearing this staid like business suit and trying to look very detached, and then he starts getting into the music and dancing, and then he kind of catches himself and gets a very staid look on his face, like I wasn't really doing that, but he was. Really kind of good things. Imogen Halson's wearing these great like silver heels that were sort of metal. I thought those were kind of cool looking heels. Anyway, the Alfoys do, at the end of the concert, after Toomorrow plays another song, they transport the whole festival back up to their spaceship. And then you see Olivia wake up. The alarm clock goes off. She wakes up. She's in the same outfit that we saw her in the first scene of the movie, where she woke up to this alarm clock, which has a British ensign on it. And she's making breakfast like she did in the first scene. And all the band members are sitting around, and she says, "I had this really weird dream." And they're all just talking about, common stuff. And then you see that Vic finds Johnson's glasses, and he doesn't understand what they are, where they came from. So there's kind of a little in-joke that maybe that it really did happen, just that the Alfoys erased their memories for some reason. I thought that was really good. I thought it was a really good movie. It's funny, it's fun. There's some really good songs in it, and some great, music from the period. And again, I say Olivia Newton-John is just radiant. I never really cared for her music that much, but I always thought she was a very beautiful woman. And especially in this movie and in Xanadu, she was just drop-dead gorgeous. And I should not have liked that movie. I don't like roller skating. I hate disco. I could not stand ELO. And yet somehow I love that movie. And I can't really explain it, except that Olivia Newton-John looked so incredibly gorgeous and did really a good job, both acting and singing, in the entire movie. Plus, it was Gene Kelly's last movie, and you can't fault that. It also helped revive the Pan Pacific Auditorium for a number of years. Unfortunately, in the early 90s, it burned down. But again, that's irrelevant. This movie is fantastic, and Toomorrow, Toomorrow, from 1970 is available for free on Tubi, or not Tubi, YouTube. There were a couple of sound dropouts because this is taken from a Japanese print, but it's still worth watching.